Let's talk about chicken coops. Why? Because they're one of the most popular topics with chickens, but besides chickens themselves. As soon as somebody wants chickens, they're looking into coops. But listen, coops are so much more than just their shelter. For me, coops are at the heart of the working machine that is the flock's potential. The first thing we're going to talk about are the 5 different coops I use and how I put them to work for me. Then I'm going to share with you the 4 basic functions of what makes a great coop. 5 basic designs that ensure their health and your sanity. Then we're going to look at the 4 must-have features of the coop. So first, let's look at the 5 different coops I use as working machines around this farm. First up is my chicken tractor. I use it for a small chicken coop for 12 birds or less if it's just their hotel. I use it as a coop inside of a chicken garden. I've used it as a chicken tractor to till, manure, and even harvest produce. I've used it as a maternity ward. One of my readers used it for a broiler pen to move around meat birds to raise them from chicks until slaughter. This thing will hold up to 12 birds. If it's just their hotel, I would say 4 if they're in it full time. It's gonna cost you less than $200. The plans for it are down in the video description. The beneficial features of this thing is that it has a door, so it can also serve as a coop and a chicken tractor. It has built-in perches, it's short, it's got a swivel landing bar, it's got milk crates for nesting boxes that can be accessed from the outside. It's got plastic PVC on the bottom so it can easily slide over terrain. It's got high hooks on either end and a cable attachment so you can pull it from either side. Next coop is the pastured poultry pen, a classic from Joel Salatin. I've used it to pasture meat birds, like Joel. I've used it as a maternity ward for mama hen and her baby chickens. I've used it as permanent housing for a small flock. You could use it to prep a larger garden bed. It'll hold up to 75 birds, and I say you could probably build it for $300 or less, easy. Plans below. The beneficial feature is that it's short, square, 1/4 open on top, 1/2 of the sides are open. I've built nesting boxes in mine to make it even more multi-purpose. And it's got PVC skids to make it movable. You don't need a special dolly to move it. Next up is Harvey Ussery's small scale poultry flock A-frame. I've used this thing as a maternity ward. Right now I'm growing little chicks in there, transitioning them from the brooder to the big house. I've used it as my main coop to move the main flock around the yard. As long as the yard, you don't have to go too far with it and it's relatively smooth and not too hilly, this works great for that. The beneficial features include the perches are also the braces. The nesting boxes are accessible from the outside. The wheels, well, there's wheels on it. All these coops are mobile. That's all beneficial. The wheels are removable so you can collapse this thing down to the ground for extra protection. It could be used as a chicken tractor, meaning you could confine them in it and have them be tilling and fertilizing the ground. And this coop will hold up to 36 adult birds. And it's gonna cost you around $500. I'll leave the link to Mr. Harvey Ussery's plans below. And now my favorite. One person can easily move a lot of birds long distances over rough terrain. The chickshaw. I use it for my main coop. It moves my main flock around. Right now they're on a till job. They can go out into the pasture and fertilize the pasture, maybe follow the cattle. I can move them to a compost job or a job where they need to be spreading mulch. The beneficial features include large wheels. It's high off the ground so the chickens can also use it as a shade during the day. The door becomes the ramp. The pull bar becomes the prop pole. The roof is also an access point. There's room for supplement feeders and a dust box. Nesting boxes are in crates that are accessible from the outside. The roof lip allows for ventilation. The white roof reflects the sun, and if you want, you could switch it out with a clear roof to collect the sun during the winter. The perches are also the floor. And this thing's gonna cost about $500 depending. I mean, I have had people just really scrap it together for about $150, but if you go to the store, it's gonna be about $500. And it'll hold about 36 birds. And if you wanna build this one, I'll leave the plans in the description. Next, let's talk about the coop most people have. It's the static coop. I don't use it much because I don't get as much work done out of it as I do the other ones. But there's still a place, and most of you might have that, so I'll talk about it. I've used it as a housing for my guineas. I've used it as a static run when my health wasn't so good. You could certainly use it to build compost if you'll just put deep bedding in. Official features include a bucket nest, a ladder perch, and deep bedding. This is a bucket nest box shelf. All you gotta do is build this shelf, place 5 buckets along through there, and you don't have to build any nest boxes. The way that deep bedding works is you get enough organic material onto the floor. Hopefully your chicken coop doesn't have a floor. If it does, take it out. Put at least 8 inches of organic material, leaves, straw, wood chips, anything like that. Let it sit there. The chickens will have access to it. They'll scratch it, they'll manure it, they'll mix it together, and eventually on the bottom of that, you're gonna start to develop compost. And to harvest that, I mean, I'll come back here, and I haven't had chicks in here full time for years, but I'll come back, I'll move the mulch off the top and harvest the compost from underneath with a shovel and take it and put it where I need it to go. It's a pretty neat system. You can do that not only in the coop, but out in the run. Now hang on a second, I'm gonna go over what makes these such great coops. I'm gonna talk about the features. So on now to the 4 basic functions of a chicken coop. Let's take my chickshaw as an example. The first function is shelter. You want enough shelter from the sun, wind, rain, the basic elements. No duh, right? At least 1 square foot of covered area per bird. It should be closed off to the cold and windy side. It should provide shade from the... Hey, I'm talking here. It should provide shade from the sun with that roof, but also in this one, shade from the sun down below, underneath. As for winter, zones 3 and above, you don't have to worry about any special insulation or anything like that. If you're in those colder areas, I would suggest maybe a greenhouse during the winter. But all the rest of you probably just need to open up even more. I mean, I know that sounds backwards, but open up the front of it to the sunny side. This side is pointing to the sunny side. The chickens are resilient. They're up to 109 degrees in temperature. They got these big feathers. They tuck their heads in underneath. They're gonna be just fine. They actually need that ventilation, that fresh air. It's not the cold that's gonna kill them, it's the combo of cold and moisture. So you want that free-flowing ventilation to keep them warm. The second aspect of a great coop is adequate access to sunlight. Notice how half my front is open up towards the front, towards the sun. A third of the side is open up, not only for the sun, but for fresh air. And 25% of your roof can be open if there's enough shelter for the birds in the covered parts. The third aspect is plenty of ventilation. You see here, the third of my side is open. All my front is open. There's ventilation through my nest box. Built-in ventilation to my roof. Notice they do have some protection here. You don't want them to be all 100% out in the open. Notice how they can get behind these panels, but you still have ventilation over here and you still have ventilation on the top. A good rule of thumb is put as much ventilation as possible above where they perch. The fourth part of making a good design for the birds is making it predator proof. Real easy. 2 things for the coop. 1, shut them up at night. That's gonna be most of your predator problem. 2, make no more than 1 inch opening anywhere in the coop. Now let's talk about basic design. You need 1 square foot per chicken if it's their hotel. You want to be able to access the eggs from the outside so you're not crawling up into a coop. Make it easy to harvest deep bedding. Also make it easy to clean. People want to know, well, how do you clean your coop? How often do you clean your coop? That was actually the most popular question. Well, I've never thought about it because I never have to clean a coop. These are self-cleaning, mainly because they're floorless. We leave the manure and feather debris and anything else behind. It's falling down to the ground and we move on. 1 square foot per chicken. Access to the eggs from the outside. Self-cleaning. Finally, let's talk about the 4 must-have features, which include perches, nest boxing, dust boxes, and food supplement containers. Perches are places for the chickens to sleep at night. Out in nature, birds jump up onto a limb and sleep there throughout the evening. So we're gonna recreate that with 2x2s. You need to give them at least 9 inches, or a good rule of thumb is like the surf's up, like from my pinky to thumb. They don't need much room. Actually, if you give them a lot of room, people ask me, why you break the rules? Why you don't give the chickens enough? I give them plenty. I recommend 36 birds in this. I think I could do 50. Here's why. Because when they go in there and perch, I don't care if they've got all the room in the world, they end up all huddled up near each other. Now for nest box, a place for your chickens to lay eggs. Roughly 1 cubic foot. They naturally want a secluded place, so we put it up and away and to the side. You want to make sure your nest box have roofs or are up near your coop roof so that birds don't get on top of it, perch, and manure into the nest box. I've used this milk crate. I just cut out an opening. You want a lip in the front so that the bedding doesn't come out. For this bedding, I love using hay. You could use wood chips, shredded paper, pine shavings, anything like that. Make sure you provide a landing bar so the birds can jump up on that and then crawl into the nest. If you want to get saucy, make it swivel so it can also be a nest blocker. In case you got some wanting to perch in there at night, you can come out here in the afternoon and swivel that up and block them from getting in there and then let it out in the morning so they can lay their eggs. Notice how my nest boxes are above eye level. That's important because if you leave your nest boxes at eye level, the chickens get bored, see the eggs, and start pecking them. Another self-cleaning feature here, because I use these milk crates, they actually have a mesh bottom, and so little fine debris and dirt actually falls through, and the bedding, for the most part, cannot. Another cool thing about these nesting boxes, I can pull them out and actually use them to carry eggs or to carry a broody hen. That's it. Those are my 5 different chicken coop systems I'm currently using. Hope you enjoyed it. I got an article link below if you want more information. Plus, I'm doing a live webinar with my wife, June 12th, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be on there, answer any questions you have. We'll go into this into more detail. We'll talk for an hour, and we'll help you figure out which one is exactly right for you. Sign up below.